how do you get into the flow state? How do you get into that perfect state where nothing else matters and you are just so focused on what is going on right now? And what benefits can it bring you? That is the subject of today's podcast. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. Yes, hello again. Welcome to Zestology. I'm sat in a park in West London, basking in the sunshine, and thought I'd bust out a podcast intro for you. And today's interview is someone with which I was recently hanging out in a much hotter place than I am now, basking in a lot of sun. Cody Pizer lives in Thailand, and I became friends with him there through my friend and Zestology friend of the show, Brett Moran. Cody is a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, an expert surfer, and a flow coach. What is a flow coach? Well, we're going to find out today, because flow is what we all get in when we feel super good. You know, when you're just focused on one thing and you're not in your head but you're in your body, and you're creative and you're in the moment and you appreciate life. That, to me, is flow. And in fact, in this podcast, I define it slightly differently, because I recorded this podcast and I've been working all morning and I felt so frazzled. I was so in my head. And then just before the podcast, I went to the gym, did a big workout, listened to some music, listened to a podcast, and very much went from my head to my body. And then just before recording the podcast, I had this great idea. And of course it came because I'd switched off and I'd got into flow. And that is a state I think we all want more of. There are lots of different ways to get flow. One of the things I didn't ask Cody about flow, because I didn't really have time, because we nattered for so long and I enjoyed the conversation so much, is what does he think about using substances to get into flow? Either natural substances, natural supplements, or psychedelics. And I guess that might be another podcast. But for me, I want to do it without taking anything. I want to do it naturally. I want to get into flow all the time. I find flow a lot easier when I'm sitting in the sunshine recording a podcast interview, basking in the sun and getting a little tan at the same time. Weather has more of an impact on my ability to get into a flow state than I would like, to be quite honest. So I'm working on that one. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Lots of stories and anecdotes about our time and his experience in Thailand as well. And just an all-round good human being that we can learn from. Here is Cody Pizer on Zestology. Cody, we're on. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, the last time I saw you, it was in person in Thailand, and now you're looking a lot browner than me, a lot healthier than me. Yeah, it's such a great place where you live, and we didn't quite get around to recording a podcast then, but I'm glad we've done this now. Perhaps sort of start by introducing yourself and telling people what you do and why you ended up in Koh Phangan as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Much browner. We don't need the infrared as much as you do, I think.
Yeah.
You've been playing with the infrared a lot. I see.
I have the one. You see the one up the nostrils.
Yeah, the one of the nostrils is gangsta. It's cool.
Good.
So yeah, I feel like you don't need it as much when you've got the sun that just blazes you with all the different radiations. Yeah, so I made it to Koh Phangan about 5 years ago. So I was in Thailand maybe 6 years ago. I didn't know the island of Koh Phangan existed, which is this like hippie yoga full moon party, and now has become like digital nomad collective paradise, I guess is the best way to describe it. And then the first time I came here for a yoga teaching gig. I had like 3 for 3 years, I had left teaching English in Korea. So that was like a straight out of university job kind of thing, like finding my bearings, getting paid pretty decently, becoming like a second language English teacher in Asia. And then I was just like, oh, there's got to be more to life. The money's good, but like these poor kids, they're just like being crammed with work that I wouldn't want to do. And then I went on like a 3-month trip through Southeast Asia, discovered that being a yoga teacher was a profession and like could actually be something that got me to travel more, which at that time was my passion. And I was like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens, and follow this feeling that I call flow, this feeling of being in the moment, being present, and I guess just doing what you love, right? And follow that for about 3 years, just like traveling India, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and just like going to multiple places, Sri Lanka, teaching yoga essentially, and just like trying out that lifestyle. And then eventually met someone at a coffee shop. I feel like all good meetings happen at coffee shops. I don't know about you, but like hanging out at coffee shops, I always meet really good people and actually get a lot of opportunities that change the course of my life.
Mm.
And I met these really cool people that were the owner of a teacher training school in Copenhagen, and they needed a sub teacher, like stand-up paddleboard yoga teacher.
Yeah.
And I'd never done stand-up paddleboard or teaching on a stand-up paddleboard, but I surf, and I considered stand-up paddleboarding easier than surfing. I was like, oh, it's much bigger board. It's like you inflate it, and I can do yoga on things. So I was just like, yeah, I'm sure I could teach this. So I was like, yeah, I could do that. And then, so they're like, cool, meet us in 2 months when we started teacher training in Copenhagen. So I finished up like a retreat gig that I had in Borneo, and then I made it to this island and honestly had zero idea about it. Like I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it. Like I didn't know there was a full moon party. I didn't know about the community here. It was like going to just some random island in Thailand for me. I was just like, oh, I like Thailand, and they were going to pay me pretty well. So I was like, cool, this sounds great. And then when I came here, I think literally the first day, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to stay here for a while. I think like they took me to like a vegan cafe, and I just had like a really delicious vegan burger. And I was like, I could get used to this. Yeah. I could get used to just easy access vegan burgers. And then, since then I just kind of stayed with that school and made it my mission to be able to teach teacher trainings, because yoga was my passion at the time, and so was movements and this flow philosophy. And I just wanted to immerse myself in being able to facilitate that kind of growth with people. And so, for the last, I guess, 5-6 years, that's what I've been doing pretty much like every month, is just running yoga teacher trainings. Even in COVID spurred me more to lean in towards the coaching thing and brought up more like the meditation and breath work coaching side of things and online course side of things, which was cool. That was really nice. And now it's just a mixture of both. Now I really like the in-person experience. So I love running the teacher trainings, and that's something I want to grow with and expand upon and develop in a very different way. And then, the coaching is I love helping people learn how to meditate for the first time. Because I think people create like a really big stigma around meditating, or they're like, I can't meditate, or I don't know what to do. And honestly, and sometimes, and Brett and I laugh about this sometimes. Brett's also a friend of yours. Sometimes we laugh about this because we have these coaching sessions with people, and we're just like, all right, close your eyes. Yep. Close your eyes. Sit down, close your eyes, and breathe for an hour. And that's it. And like, and they wake up and it's like, that was life-changing. And we're like, yeah, we know. But we just like told them to sit down and close their eyes. And there's guidance, and I'm making it a bit simplistic, but basically that's what they're doing. So that's kind of what's flowing at the moment, for me. And that's me living on this island too, that provides really well to live here. And like we spoke a little bit about earlier, prior to this little recording that's happening now, that does feel small sometimes. But I see a lot of expansion in the field of yoga, meditation, self-development, new ways of living is kind of maybe a way that I like to think of it. And I know you like to experiment with that too, like alternative ways of doing things, basically. like not just your regular, you have to get healthy this way or you have to make money this way type of thing.
Well, I think that's what has been, and it's not just professionally, because obviously a lot of us in the sort of I mean, I first started bringing out my first wellness books in 2005 when there wasn't much competition, and now there's a lot of competition. So you need to find more of a niche. But away from work, you know, I think what our trip to Thailand has just made us realize there's more than one way to do life, and with a family as well. I always thought, oh, well, it's just going to be such a grind from the age of 4 till 18 because we're not going to be able, it's going to cost us $8,000 to go to Mallorca for a week in the summer holidays. And that's going to be our yearly holiday. And it just seen that there's different ways of living and met different people who do that sort of thing. And you certainly get that. And you especially get that where you live on Koh Phangan as well, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I agree with that so much because even the families here, and you got to experience that family life here as well, it's not, you'll obviously be able to speak more about it, but it seems from my perspective, like it doesn't have to even be that expensive, right? Like you can live off of so much less, get so much more, and still do all the things that I guess as a parent you feel responsible to do, like provide a high quality education and more actually, because like you also get to expose your child to nature, which I think is one of the things that gets missed so deeply in cities and in this sort of rush culture of modern society, is this expose to firstly other cultures, which you get immediately if you're in Thailand, right? Like other cultures, like you said, way of living, way of doing things, this Thai style of like sabai, everything's okay, everything's good. And also just, being in nature, drinking fresh coconuts, like a little Tarzan baby.
Yeah. Because we've gone from Thailand to London, which I found out the other day. London is the slowest city in the world to move around from place to place. The average journey to go and meet someone in Thailand is longer here than it takes hours. If I've got a friend in East London and we want to meet, it's going to take an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there. You know,
but it's so small.
London's not small. It's not. It's very spread out.
But in terms of size.
No,
really? I feel like it's smaller than Thailand, though. No. Okay. I don't know. My geography's off then.
Yeah, no. Like I think if you were to compare London to Bangkok is also like big and spread out. But it's big. It's spread out. The suburbs go on forever, and it takes a long time to get from place to place, basically. So the contrast between that and where we were living in Thailand, where you jump on your moped and you are at your destination within 10 minutes every time, is quite something. Yeah. So
even though just like the moped culture, right? Like the moped culture, like I'm sure, like, did you ever think you'd just be mopeding around like with your family? It's just such a Thai thing where it's just like that's everyone just is on a scooter all the time.
Yeah. I gave my son Stan a few little trips on the scooter, but just very safe trips on a very quiet road up and down, basically where we were living. We didn't drive around. That wasn't our primary mode of transport. We also had a small car where we took him to school and stuff like that, because I just couldn't, like, you know, the family, you get four like, and a baby balancing on the handlebars. I just couldn't quite bring myself to do that with Stan. That wasn't going
not at that level of skill yet. That's like level 3 or 4, right?
Yeah. Because also the roads are utterly perilous most of the time, aren't they? So yeah. So I'm really interested in what you do around flow. I know, you know, obviously you mentioned that your background is originally yoga and meditation, but you help high performing humans with flow. And I think that's something that I'm very interested, because I find, for example, this morning I've been sort of taking a high level look at my business and like a real strategy. So not in the weeds, but sort of high level. I've been doing that on the computer. I've been looking at notes and this sort of thing. And then before we went to the gym and just switched off, listened to podcasts, whatever, just no intention really. And then sat down, and in the 2 minutes before we connected on Zoom, I was like, hang on, I've got the solution to the problem. And I can only really describe that as my body just being more connected to my body, which I suppose you could call flow as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
love that. I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, it's that famous thing. There's this famous story about I think it was Edison, who used to like when he was ever trying to think of a problem and he couldn't get the solution, he would take a nap, but he would hold like a ball or like a bell in his hand. So that like he would be like in this like alpha wave kind of like delta, more like theta, actually more like theta, like delta theta wave state.
Yeah.
And then the bell would drop and he would get these like, oh, okay, that's the answer. Like, because he would be tapping into his subconscious basically. Yeah. Which is what happens like when you go and exercise or you go put the mind away for a little bit, is you allow for your subconscious mind to just kind of like do its thing.
Yeah.
So it's a part of flow. And there's been like such a my first introduction to flow was probably through, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
My first introduction to flow was probably through freestyle rapping. And
wow. So you got the resume. You've got yoga, meditation, and freestyle rapping.
Freestyle rapping, exactly. And it was just like the state I got into whenever I'd freestyle rap. And then obviously like in rap culture and in like a lot of different cultures, you would say, oh, this person's got a good flow, right? Like you would say that. And then I read this book when I was flying from Korea to Japan. I found it in this tiny little, like the smallest airport library in the world with like the smallest English section. And for some reason they had this book that just said flow written on it. And I was like, whoa, someone's speaking to me. And I picked up the book, and it's a book called Flow by Mihail, some like really hard surname, Shimanovsky or something like that. Very interesting book. And it's basically like this positive cognitive psychological approach to flow and understanding what this state is. So this guy basically started researching this state that seems to appear in a lot of different activities, professions, etc. throughout humanity. This high performance state, basically. Like it's like when Michael Jordan gets in the zone, or when Warren Buffett's like making a decision on like what to invest in. Like they're all similar, different contexts, but there's like a similarity in neural connectivity and like and sensation and feeling and stuff. And so I was just like, well, this puts so much like tangibility to everything that I've been feeling. Like you get that feeling, right? Like, you have this feeling of like, oh, I really enjoy doing this. I don't know why, but I do. Or this thing makes me feel really alive and I don't know why, but I do. Yeah. And so it just gave me a lot of words for that. And I think on that day, or upon finishing that book, I was like, what would happen if I just followed flow? Like if I just did things that made me feel that way. And then it eventually, like, to cut a very long story short, it eventually led me to this realization that you can create flow, that you can actually do it. Like you can do it from the inside out. So usually it's an outside in based thing. And a lot of flow psychology and conceptualization is like creating an external environment that puts you into a deep state of flow. And that's usually what like flow coaching would maybe speak about, is like Tony, what puts you into flow? Like what are the things that you need in your environment that are best for you? And it's different for everyone, right? Like for some people, it's like peace, quiet, a timer for an hour, no distractions, no windows, just like boom, right? Just the whole way, and you just work. And for some people, it's like, I need an ocean view, a little bit of chill hop in the background, and like freedom to have like no time at all. Like that's my one. The last one's more me. And then that like puts me into deep flow. Like then I can go for hours and hours and hours without having to think and just like be immersed into something. But what I learned is that you can also start to cultivate flow from the inside out. And this is where meditation kind of came in. I was like, oh, meditation is basically flow. And in yoga, there's this word for meditation in Sanskrit, which is dhyana. And dhyana is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. The 8 limbs of yoga are basically all the structured practices around the science of yoga, like union, etc. Again, a whole another podcast. But this word dhyana is very similar to the word flow. Even like in terms of direct translation, it's it's uninterrupted streamed consciousness. And that's basically what meditation is uninterrupted streamed consciousness. And that's what flow is. Like when you're in flow, you're in this uninterrupted stream of consciousness with whatever you're doing. And so this really highlights it for me. I was like, oh, whoa, the yogis have been trying to do this for like thousands and thousands of years. Like they've been hip to flow since day dot. They've been like, oh yeah, there's something in this state. But they did it in a very yogi way, is they did it from the inside out, where I feel like the way that I was going about it and the way that I was learning about it was just like very outside in. It's like, do the things that make you more flowy, which is also great. But like having this ability to internally, like basically like attune yourself to flow state. And you can then get into flow, like doing the dishes or getting into flow, being with your partner, you know. And it's good to recognize obviously things that make it easier for you to get into flow. And that's kind of what the flow coaching is basically, it's like learning how to get out of your own way. Because it's uninterrupted. So most of the time, the thing that's interrupting our stream of consciousness is us. Like we're the ones that are distracting ourselves or stopping ourselves based on certain belief systems or based on behaviors and habits that prevents us from being focused. And even from like a business perspective, like flow is an incredible business model because it's the ability to, with uninterrupted energy, just like proceed in a singular direction, right? Like expand without getting distracted, like do this project, do this thing. And that like scatters the energy and brings things into this like, and you are unsure, like you're in the weeds, like you said, but then you come out and you're like, okay, no, this is the direction I need to go in. And then you just put everything down and you lean into that direction and you start to move. And then the final thing I'll add about flow, this is from the book and I think it's really relevant, is having deep recognition of your own skills and the skills required to do the task. So in flow, like coming into flow state, there needs to be this really beautiful balance of challenge versus skill. So for instance, like if you're over skilled and you're given a very like easy thing to do, right? Like let's say I met this guy once who was really good at Super Mario. So he would just like smash out Super Mario, like the Game Boy game or a TV game really easily. But if he did it on easy mode, like you'd be really bored and he could just like, he could do it really like easily. So he had to challenge himself even more. And so he like, I think what he said he would do is he would try and do it without dying and without stopping. So like imagine Super Mario just like going, you're not allowed to stop, you're not allowed to die. You try to do it in the quickest time, right? And this is because, and that's what put him into flow state. And it was because he raised the challenge to meet his skill level. Otherwise, you just get bored. And I'm sure we both experience this in different areas of our life where it's like, it's not challenging. Like you've been doing, even for me, yoga teacher trainings now have become not challenging. So I'm like, I'm looking for my next challenge. But the risk in that is that you also don't want to make it too challenging. And so this for me comes up whenever I do like rock climbing or bouldering. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this route. And I go to try it and it just destroys me. And all it does is cause frustration. Like I don't feel presence or in the moment. I'm just like, why can't I do this? And so a big key part of creating flow is being very true to yourself and your skills and your abilities, and then measuring it up to whatever challenge, task, project, or goal you would like to achieve. So whether it means like, if it's a big goal, then you just break it down, right? You just make it simpler, make it smaller, you chunk it. You don't have to achieve the big thing yet. You just focus on like doing the next thing. Or even you just go and skill build. So if it's like, oh, I need to achieve this next thing, but I don't have the skills for it, then what's going to put me in flow is building the skills. And that's like, I've noticed that with business. So sometimes I'm like, I have no idea how to do this thing. And the idea of it frustrates me. But I do know how to learn. So, okay, I'm just going to go and learn. And then I feel really good learning. I can learn for hours. And then I come back. I'm like, oh, now I know how to do this. And it feels, for me, it's like crossing the chasm becomes easier, but still slightly scary. And you kind of want that. You want the slight, because that's the point of flow is like, there's a little bit of like fear almost. There's this little bit of like, oh shit, can I do it? I mean, I've done everything that proves that I can do it. Now I just need to do it. And it's that final little step that for me is where life is as well, where you feel that sense of being alive. And And that's why, yeah, I'm really obsessed with flow and this idea of it, because I feel like it's probably, in my opinion, it's the drive of human growth is flow state. Like I feel like flow state is what drives growth in humanity. And then again, there's a lot more to say around intention and stuff like that. But just generally, like to put a pin in it, I feel like that's what it is. It's the state that drives growth in human evolution and human progress.
Yeah. Today's podcast is brought to you by Welleezy, the platform that puts healthy living within your reach. As a member, you get lots of wholesome products at wholesale prices. This is what we need right now. If you are like pretty much everyone I know, sort of watching the pennies at the moment, then you save so much using Welleezy. In fact, the average Welleezy member saves 250 quid a year. We personally get at least one box delivered a week, and it's got everything we need in the house in it, from loo roll to treats. Their mission is to make healthy living accessible and affordable to everyone. I absolutely love Welleezy. I've got to know the guys there. If you want to check it out, then it is welleezy.co.uk. Use the code Zestology10. That is Zestology10 for £10 off your first order. It is just the all-in-one digital shopping experience for healthy stuff. They've got food, drinks, supplements, skincare, home and cleaning. I mean, we started off just getting treats there, and now we get as much as we can there, and you save so much at Welleezy. So go to welleezy.co.uk. If you are the sort of person who likes shopping at Whole Foods or Planet Organic or something like that, then you, I think, will like this, because you're going to save money. Use the code Zestology10 for £10 off your first order. Enjoy. I think one of the things that really struck us being in Thailand was the fact that people live good lives, and the people that we met, and this is generally speaking talking about the Westerners that we met who live in Thailand rather than the Thai people, although the Thai people have their own sense of sanuk or happiness, which seems to infuse into everything. But people definitely work less hard, and I never really felt that sense of grind that I sometimes feel here. But what you were saying is, it is hard sometimes to escape that sense of grind. And for instance, I was a sports TV presenter, which is the dream job for so many people for 15 years. And in year 15, I just found it boring. I'd watched too many goals by second division football teams in Darlington. I just didn't care anymore. You know? And as you say with yoga as well, I mean, that's such a brilliant job. And yet you know how to do it. You're very good at it. Escaping that grind is a real challenge. It's hard because that's what brings the bills in still, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure. It's really funny. It's like when you said the goals thing, because there's so many people, they're like, oh, like they love watching goals, right? It's like, it's like such a great experience. And with the yoga teacher training, there's this similar thing. We have like these, for me, the peak of yoga teacher training is not the yoga, it's the sharing circles, right? So in a yoga teacher training, you have a sharing circle, and there's there's emotion. It's beautiful. Like, bro, it's so beautiful. It's like people just open up and like reveal themselves. And if you're going to be doing a yoga teacher training for anything, you do it for that, I believe. Wow. Even though you don't know that you're doing it for that.
Yeah.
But so like it's beautiful. But same to the goals thing is like people will come to me afterwards and be like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, but like I've seen like 50. Like I've taught over like 50 to 60 teacher trainings. So I've seen like over 50 to 60 sharing circles and people being emotional. And it's somewhat sad. Like I do sometimes, I'm like, and I'm sure maybe you felt this too, because I'm sure you were passionate about what you were doing at some point. There's a little bit of me that's like, it's still beautiful. I'm just numb to it because I've done so much of it. It is like, if I take an objective look at it, I'm like, it's so beautiful. It's so special. It's awesome. Yeah. But there's a part of me exactly like you said that I've just done it so much that I'm used to it, which is kind of like, it's the human bane of familiarity, which is, I think, one of the most difficult obstacles to overcome in most things in our life, whether it be relationships or profession, is that bane of familiarity where the person or the thing becomes so familiar that you take it for granted. Yeah. And it's quite that's even challenging to overcome. as much as challenging to also step away from it as well. Yeah.
And, as much as possible, having control over what you can change. And that might not be, you sort of, if you've got a boss, you can't get over that. But
yeah,
I think, actually, all for me it was sort of staying in similar industries. I still love broadcasting, still love podcasting, and I always did wellness on the side, but I'm focusing on that a little bit more. And I love that. And I'm totally energized to get up in the morning. There's still a sense of grind at times, because life can be just a bit grindy, especially if you've got kids, and there's inevitably a sense of routine, and then I think what you were saying about comfort zones and challenge and growth is really important, and that's what I did admire about people in Thailand. People do live their best lives. They definitely work less hard. The ice bath culture is just growing all the time, which is a perfect little mini encapsulation of what we're talking about there, isn't it? Because every time you do an ice bath, you think, oh, fuck, I can't do it today. And everyone's going to laugh at me. And then you do it and you feel great.
Exactly. The ice bath culture is just like, I think it's got one of the highest, probably, at least in the foreigner, the expat community, like per ratio of humans, lots of people that just do ice baths. Like everyone's pumping ice baths and saunas and stuff. And,
But I have learned that it's a lot easier doing an ice bath when you get out into 35-degree heat than when you get out into 10-degree heat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Brett said this too when he went to the UK and did an ice bath. Summer really cold.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And the thing with it is, though, is honestly, everything becomes comfortable over time. Like even with the ice baths, like there's been a point in my life where I just like ice baths. I got really into them and became not obsessed, but I just did them every day, and it just doesn't, like, now, to be honest, they don't really do that much for me. Like, as in, they still have their health benefits, is what I mean. But like, I don't feel anything about them. Like I can get in, I've pushed myself and I've challenged myself to stay for like 20 or 25 minutes once. And I did that and it was horrible. But now, since doing that, I'm like, okay, yeah, like 5 minutes seems chill, literally 3 minutes, right? Like it's okay.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I just always notice with everything. It's the reason in the study of flow, it's the reason why people become adrenaline junkies, is because like your barometer for life and challenge, the capacity for it grows. Yeah. And the thing is, like, you see this even in business, right? So like in extreme sports, it's a little bit more obvious, where it's like doing a single backflip off a cliff is not enough anymore. So you've got to do triple backflips off like a bigger cliff, because it just doesn't give you the same rush. And the rush is what you want. But in business, like, this happens when you're like, your barometer becomes like earning this amounts of money just doesn't do it for you anymore, right? So then you're like, and that becomes easy. Like, you're just like, yeah, I can earn this amount of money. It's easy for me. And so like, I think the people who play the business game really well, or just the people who are in that game as a game, they always increase their challenge level. And that's usually increasing how much that they're making, where they could like happily just like be where they're at. Yeah. But that barometer has gone to like a certain level where they need to then achieve higher and higher and higher.
Cody, we're very nearly out of time. 2 quick questions. Cool. What is one book that you would recommend, and one tip for living with more energy? So one book that's had an influence on you, and one tip for more energy.
Cool. Well, I recommend the Flow book. Definitely. Like I would say read that for anyone who's interested in flow or understanding a little bit more about it. Flow by Mihail. Again, I don't want to butcher his name. Something Iski at the end. And then one tip for more energy is recognize your process. So like, recognize the way that you do things, and understand that maybe leaning into that's going to provide you with more efficiency, rather than trying to do it the way someone else suggests you do it, which actually just distracts you and like pushes you in a direction that frustrates you. So like, recognizing how you work, I think, is a really powerful way to boost your productivity and energy during the day. Understanding your flow is what I would call it.
Yeah. Definitely going to check out that book.
Check it out.
Great to talk. Thank you for coming on. It's great to talk.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Where can people find out more about you and everything you do, and your flow coaching and everything else?
You can check me out on Instagram at Flow Move Live. So flow_move_live, and also website, same, www.flowmovelive.com. And there's coaching, there's content, there's just value being added, and there's always consistently more stuff. And potentially a flow teacher training happening soon. So
Wow. And what temperature is it right now in Thailand?
it's 32.
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful. It's more than double what it is here, so enjoy it.
And it's evening right now, so that's like, this is the low. We're a low 32 for sunset.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Cody, great to chat. We'll chat again soon. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony. Much appreciated. Lots of love.
Thank you to Cody. Thank you for listening to Zestology. I'm still sat in the park, and I hope you enjoyed that interview. Thank you to my podcast sponsors, Well Easy. If you want an all-round grocery store that is delivered direct to your door and save an average of £250 a year, it is so worth it. I mean, you're saving quite a lot on each order. And as I said, we get big boxes of Well Easy products delivered every week. If you're someone who likes shopping at Whole Foods, I think you will like this. Use the code Zestology10 for 10% off your first order at Well Easy. So head to Well Easy, use that code Zestology10, get 10% off, and sorry, not 10% off, £10 off your first order, and just try it out. You know, we love the Unrefined bars in there. They have a lot of the Dove's Farm flowers that we like. We very much like the Belly Good Nomato sauces. Buy pretty much all our baking goods there. They've got jams with stevia in. They've got healthy treats and some fairly unhealthy ones as well, but all with natural ingredients and exactly the sort of thing that we like, definitely. And you sort of have to pay a premium if you want to get organic products as well, which is why if someone's offering me a 20% discount, I'm in. So head to welleasy.co.uk and use the code Zestology10. Sorry, it's not in the US at the moment, but at some point I think there might be. Also, thank you to my podcast partners, Magnesium Breakthrough, a magnesium product like no other because it contains 7 different forms of highly absorbable magnesium. One of the problems with supplements is there are lots of products out there and you never quite know which ones to trust. And that is why I only like partnering up with brands that I can trust and I can endorse on this podcast. So if you're not quite sure which magnesium to go for, you know it's sort of going to be good for your sleep and your health and your inflammation, and you know that it's going to help you relax and maybe take the edge off in terms of anxiety, but you don't know which product to go for, try Magnesium Breakthrough. Go to magbreakthrough.com/Zestology and use the code Zestology10 for a minimum 10% discount. You might get up to about 40% if you buy in bulk. That's magbreakthrough.com/Zestology, and that 10% discount code using the code Zestology10 works all over the world, including on the UK site. Right, that's it from my podcast. I'm feeling very in flow right now in this sunshine, so I'm going to head off and do something else. Maybe even go for a workout to continue the flow state. And I'll see you next time.